Episode 9 of X-Men 97 starts right off the next day with Xavier waking up. We learn why Xavier didn't leave the school to Jean and Scott, and instead to Magneto. Being that they were his first students, he didn't want them to not be able to live a life that they've been building this whole time together. Rogue finally wakes up and Nightcrawler was right there to be by her side. We know that Magneto survived, and that's what he was trying to tell her, but you can tell where her heart was. She was hoping it was Gambit. Storm, Forge, Jubilee, and Sunspot all arrive back at the mansion, too late to have done anything about it, but the damage is obvious. Jean and Storm, as well as Beast and Forge, both have kind of a small reunion since they haven't seen each other in at least a little bit. Much longer for Forge, but like he said, definitely would have been nicer under better circumstances. In the little meeting where Cyclops is telling everyone what we need to do, you'll notice that Wolverine says he needs to kill someone, referring to Magneto. This is when Xavier rolls in and says if you wish to punish anybody for this, please start with me. You can tell that it already is starting to show you the guilt and regret that Xavier's feeling. They're building up towards something, but I'll get to that at the end. Cyclops gives us our first reference to Team Blue and Team Gold. This is very interesting, and later on when they split up, they pretty much stay the same as the classical kind of versions. You have Cyclops and Jean on one side being the different teams, Team Blue for Cyclops, Team Gold for Jean Grey. But the weird thing was they actually had Wolverine on the team, even if it's normal in the comics. It's a little weird that you have Wolverine on the team meant to go face Magneto. We learned that Xavier knew a long time ago about Bastion due to Cerebro picking up on him. It's a little interesting that we hear about that detail considering he's kind of half human, half Sentinel, but we don't hear about any references of the Inhumans or Eternals being picked up by Cerebro. Just an interesting side note. But we do figure out that he could have actually been a founding member of the X-Men. Even Rogue is upset at Xavier. According to her, they only were viewed as students to him, but not equals. We see Magneto appear, coming in classic uniform with an Asteroid M. We know that he is done flipped. We already saw this at the end of the last episode. But now he's actually coming to try and ask which of the X-Men will join him. It's gotten that far. We predicted it. He did turn back to being opposed to him. And his speech was pretty compelling, considering he brings up all the deaths that happened on Genosha, how he pushed Xavier's dream, how you should have seen it, Charles. It was just as you talked about back in that bar. But then switching immediately to no more. And ask, since this path of Xavier's has died, I offer you a new one. Come join me. Sunspot and Rogue. Man, I didn't expect them to join him, but I guess it has kind of been building towards it. If you remember my previous episode reviews talking about the bigotry from Sunspot's own parents. Gotta love Marvel getting back, because Feige, he was a part of the original Foxman universe, so he, probably never was a fan of the not use of the yellow and blue uniform. So when they made the joke about yellow spandex, he couldn't pass up the chance of allowing for a joke making fun of the black letter. And I love that it was Cyclops that delivered both of them, as well as this time, instead of Wolverine, it was his own son, Cable. I love how Xavier just straight grabs the president and brings him into the astral plane for a small chat. I know the weight of this conversation was intense, but really think about it. That's just some casual way to just show that you're him. Gotta love the classic costumes. Not only are they referring to some of the other animated series, like the one where Wolverine is more highlighted in the Evolution show, but man, the comics ones too, like Jean Grey's Storm, Cyclops, this was really just, you could call it fan service, but it was just good writing to get back to using the older uniforms because they're at an older location. Gold Team is immediately attacked by Sentinels upon arriving to the island where Bastion is located. He's tied up to a huge, massive amount of computers and Sentinels. He's basically replaced the Master Mold Sentinel at this point. He's controlling him just with his thoughts. Morph turning into Hulk and Morph smashing was just brilliant. I loved it. Like, is it just me, or is Morph, like, really powerful compared to how it used to be displayed? Or was that just a symptom of the, PTSD from dealing with Sinister and the Sentinels? Jean versus Sinister was a really good fight, and if not for Cable showing up being under the control of Sinister, she would have taken him out no problem. The little group fight as the team showed up to face Magneto was really cool. It could have been done with a little bit more time at least, but it was good for what we got, and it definitely shows us that the final episode is probably not holding back at all. Ford's driving a Blackbird gets shot down, and Storm might have been able to save him. We don't know for sure, because during the middle of trying, she was shot by a Sentinel too. We actually will have to wait till next episode to learn their fate. Most likely they're gonna make it, but we need to see. Back to the Cable versus Jean fight, she dies. Well, we don't know for sure, but we at least know she reached out like she was about to die to tell Scott that she loves him. Xavier communicates with Scott that there will be no convincing Magneto. He will not be doing this willingly. To save the Earth, we are going to have to get his helmet off so that Xavier can force him using psychic powers to be able to fix the planet's magnetic fields. Wolverine eventually gets the helmet off, and Xavier goes immediately to attacking Magneto. And if not for Cyclops pulling a Star-Lord, we probably could have ended this fight, but that might have made things for Team Gold a lot more serious. Immediately after this moment, we see Wolverine stab and rip into Magneto, and Magneto finally gets a chance to do something he's wanted to do for a long time. Magneto slams his helmet onto Xavier, preventing his psychic abilities from working and starting to squeeze on it as he wraps him up in other metal to completely restrain him. He then turns towards Wolverine, even as Xavier's begging him not to, and rips his adamantium off of his bones. This is how the episode ends. One of the most intense and gory cliffhangers I've seen from Marvel yet. Now, I'd mentioned that we were going to come back to some things other people had said, especially the helmet being on Magneto. There's a villain in the comics called Onslaught. He's a combination of the worst and the meanest and biggest hateful thoughts out of Xavier and Magneto. If we're about to go that direction in this next episode, this is gonna be a morally conflicting episode. At the same time, I think they would keep something like Onslaught at least to next season. So we might end with a post-credit scene in the final episode showing them doing the lobotomy with psychic powers of Magneto, which in the comics is how we get him. But this is a major villain that would bring the Avengers, this would bring Spider-Man in, this would bring all of the X-Men regardless of whose side they're on, all just to build to defeat Onslaught. And it's not an easy win. Another thing to think about is we still left Apocalypse floating through random time vortexes. So at any point with messing with time, Apocalypse could show back up, and we don't know with the multiple moments of time travel, as well as Cable trying again and again and again to get to that moment on Genosha. He may already be here. But go ahead and come in the comments. Let's discuss this episode. Tell me what you thought. What did you wish had happened? Did you expect that cliffhanger? Did you expect the split of the X-Men to start happening? And let me ask you this. Do you think we're going to get that comic version of Cyclops where he goes to on Magneto's side? We'll have to wait till next time. But, until then, and I'll catch you later.